All right, what's up, everybody? It's Josh McCabe here. I'm your host, Overflow Beyond the Music. Welcome to episode number 5 of season 3. It's good to have you guys with us. Thank you for tuning into this podcast, being faithful listeners, and I really appreciate the feedback. Even just the other day, my dad was saying that he was listening to the podcast and had a chance to listen to one of the episodes, and so anytime you're listening, just let me know. It means a lot if you're a friend or you have me on social media, or maybe just follow the podcast on social media. Drop us a line and let us know. And if you want to know where to do that, I've said every episode, so I'm sorry if this is getting repetitive, but you can find us on Overflow BTM on Facebook, Overflow BTM on Instagram, and then Overflow BTM on Twitter as well. And we are always checking those things and always really, really appreciate the feedback. So definitely reach out to us. We will try and message you back as well. But following us is the best place to stay informed of when the next episode is coming out, as well as being subscribed to the podcast. Now, many of you probably listen to this podcast on different forms. Maybe it's Spotify. I'm like a Spotify guy. I really like listening to podcasts on Spotify. I guess maybe it's just because to keep all music and podcasts and sports radio all in the same place, it's really, really handy to do that. But wherever you listen, make sure that you just hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out, helps us spread the word, and helps us find out who our fam is. So we would really appreciate if you could definitely get on that as soon as you can. Now, I was going to say that I'm coming in hot from Edmonton, Alberta, but I'm actually coming in cold from Edmonton, Alberta. It is freezing here right now, and I'm up here visiting with some friends. A good friend of mine, Pastor Gordon Ponak, is the pastor at a church up here, and I am doing some music for his Christmas banquet tonight, so I was leading worship in town, doing some other stuff, and got to catch up with some friends here in Edmonton because their tour happened to be starting the night that I flew in. And the funny thing is, it's like I see these people all the time, and here we are in a different country, different province, way out in Western Canada, crossing paths and hanging out. And they are loving the outcome. Chris and Jodi make up their husband and wife, and they are known as Loving the Outcome. And they just kicked off a Canadian tour here in Edmonton, where I'm at right now. And it's just really good catching up with them and getting to see the first night of the tour. And of course, they are the guests this week on the podcast. But the funniest thing is that I was editing, I guess, the episode all week, and then I see them, and here we are releasing the episode. So I got to tell you, I love these people so much. Chris and Jodi have been such a huge part of my life and the life of our family. I love them to death. They mean the world to me personally, and I know to my wife and my kids as well. And so you're going to love what they had to say. We had a really fun time recording this episode, and it just felt organic and like family because they came over, they brought their 2 kids, Milo and Ziggy, and they played with our kids while we were recording the episode. And I'm not going to lie, you will hear some screams, you will hear some playing, you will hear some fun, because we all have kids that are, 7 years old and under. And as much as you want to try and just believe that you can record on highly sensitive microphones in a room while your kids are all running around the other room, not always the case. And you'll have some fun with this. I tried to edit out as much, background noise or whatever as I could, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. It was fun. It was family time, and we got to talk about some really cool things. So without any further introduction, I want to head on into our conversation with Chris and Jodi, better known as Love and the Outcome. For anyone tuning into this podcast that's listening on super sensitive headphones and not in the car, you may hear some children's voices in the background because I've got Chris and Jodi, better known as Love and the Outcome, at our place here in Franklin. We're having our kids are hanging out, and we're in my office.
It's safe and fun for the whole family. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see what we can do here as far as. It would make for a good podcast drama if there was like an episode.
And we had to parent while we were on the podcast.
Yeah, you leave.
I'll actually be pretty amazed if there is not some kind of drama happening outside.
I think it would be interesting if all of a sudden Jodi has to leave for a couple minutes and Chris and I start talking about like sports or...
I was going to say it's all football then.
Yeah.
It's like,
then
bye guys, peace out.
Exactly. We start talking football and then Jodi comes back and reports that my son pushed her son. And then we get into a discipline argument.
Babe, we gotta go. This is over.
The McCabe kids are the devil.
You may need a penalty box somewhere.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Man. Yeah.
But I think it's. I mean, the fact that we're doing a podcast like this is indicative of sort of the relationship that our families have. That we hang out together a ton, and I was thinking about prepping more so for this episode because I wanted to try and find something to talk about that I didn't already know.
Yeah, you're like,
usually like you kind of get into it and I'm kind of like, oh cool, I didn't know that. Oh cool, so tell me about that. I'm kind of like, so I'm almost gonna fake some intrigue in a way to get you to tell people who don't know those things.
No way.
Yeah, like, oh, did not know that.
That's crazy, guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're here, we're in Nashville, and the thing that we definitely do have in common, other than having two kids, and being in this music ministry world of life, we are both from the homeland of Canada.
Yes. So proudly Canadian. And with American boys, yes. Our life is complicated.
Oh, totally. But do you ever open up, like, if you're ever complaining about Nashville weather, do you ever just open up your weather app and go, at least we're not in Winnipeg right now?
Oh,
almost every day.
I mean, when
almost every day except for July and August.
That's a true story.
Then I'm like, okay, yeah, Canada's the bomb in August.
I think once you've tried to make a living and a life as a Canadian touring musician from Winnipeg, Manitoba, where the closest show is 7 hours away,
right, through the snow,
and it's smaller than Winnipeg,
you never take for granted like Nashville's proximity to different cities and the weather, 100%.
Well, that's the thing that Americans, for the musicians, don't understand, and Canadians probably as the fans don't understand why some of their favorite bands don't bring that big tour experience across Canada, because the cities are so far.
It's so big and so spread out.
Yeah, you can't afford to do it. And I remember telling some friends who had a band that was just kind of blowing up, and they were kind of used to bringing their own lighting and being on a bus. I said, you won't make a penny if you try and bring all that to Canada. You're going to have to find a way to do it a little like slim down.
Mm-hmm. It's so true.
Minivan.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, like the longer I'm away from where I'm from, the more I appreciate where I'm from.
Right.
And we had a writing session with one of the guys from Hillsong Young and Free, and they had just finished their Canadian tour. Yeah. And he said exactly what you said, like minivan and then like a few flights here and there. He's like, if the people weren't so awesome and if people didn't appreciate it so much, like, why would you do it? It's so hard. But he's like, the people are so hungry for it, you know?
Totally.
So that's the fuel.
I mean, I think it's probably always got to be the fuel that, Mike Weaver, Big Daddy Weave, was on the first episode of the season, and he said that what changed his mind about touring, because he'd walk into shows sometimes where it's like, does anyone know this is happening tonight? Or it's just a disaster.
Right.
But he realized that just connecting with the one person who was really hungry to be ministered to was what changed it for him. So what motivates you to slug it out as far as moving your family from Winnipeg to Nashville, starting a life here, and then still feeling that you want to go back and sing these songs to Canada as well as the US, of course, but what's that motivation like for you?
I think that it was just as a kid, I was really in tune, and I think that watching videos of you playing your dad's homemade bass guitar, I can speak for you too. We both as kids knew we had a thing for music. There was like a bit of a talent or a gifting there and stuff. But I think the goosebump moments for me of understanding my calling beyond the gifting and understanding that like what lights me up actually lit up the room was the magic sauce for me, kind of going, man, like this brings me to life and I can see Holy Spirit bringing others to life through this simple little offering.
Right. Yeah.
Was, I just started paying attention to those moments. And I don't know. I'm not very good at anything else. How about you, babe?
Well, we're pretty different personalities, but I think there's just something where our Enneagram numbers kind of intersect, and it's like the 9 is very supportive of the 3, and it's like, wait a minute, we're at this point, we can either stop here or we can keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where we stop now, we'll still be here if we keep going. So let's just keep going.
Well, and what people might not know, I know you know, Josh, but we were separate bands until 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like Love and the Outcome did not have a band name. There was no band name. There was no Facebook page. There was no Instagram to be found 6 years ago for us, which is really bonkers to stop and think about. Mm-hmm. We were 2 separate bands forever, and kind of started writing together on my last Christmas project. And the way it all began was my guitar player couldn't make a weekend of shows, and we were married, newly married at this point. And I was like, babe, I'm desperate. And this is true, 100% true story. I have gigs I think I was leading worship on the Sunday in Calgary, and I'd surrounded it with playing at a pizza joint on the Friday.
Amazing.
I was at a 3-set club night at Lydia's in Saskatoon on the Saturday.
A farm in Lethbridge.
It was all over the shop.
Yeah.
And I knew you knew the songs, even though you're a bass player. I'm like, I know you can strap on your acoustic and do it. And we went, and we had such a blast that we just kind of never stopped doing it.
Yeah.
We just kind of kept saying yes to everything and doing it. So I'm pretty competitive.
Yeah.
I'm super achieving is really big for me. So to be honest with you, it was a lot of grit and guts, and just putting one foot in front of the other, going, I know I was made to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to kick down some doors, and hopefully God, opens a few for me as well. And to be honest, I put a lot more stress on myself along the way than I needed to. Right. I did it the hard way sometimes. And we always say to anybody listening that the long road is not the wrong road. Yeah. And I say that so often because our road has been long, and people sometimes jump on IG or socials and go, man, must be so nice, da-da-da. And it's like, man, let me tell you the story. Let me tell you the story about how we almost quit but didn't. Let me tell you the story about how we didn't have any money to put in the gas tank and the credit cards were maxed, but God opened a door and we just kept going.
Totally.
But I'm not going to lie. It wasn't an overnight success thing, and I did a lot of striving and barely surviving before I learned how to thrive. And really lean on Holy Spirit, and doing it together is really good, like you said, because we're so different, and we keep each other in check.
I mean, you mentioned Instagram, and it's so funny because I think we use these words oh man, it's such an Australian thing when someone calls someone a legend. It's
totally.
Oh, such a legend, or a British thing. And I'm like,
brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. And it's no, they're not a legend. Mm-hmm. Chris Tomlin's a legend. You know what I mean? Come on, let's not toss these words around like they're nothing.
Right. Yeah.
But people would look at Instagram, and I think back to the tour that we kind of got to know each other more so than just in passing. Yeah. And it was Winter Jam. Mm-hmm. And it's arenas every night, and it's 10 to 15,000 people, and you're there, and it's really easy to get a great photo of the crowds because there's people there. Yeah. But the reality was you guys were a brand new band.
Oh man, literally brand new. It was our first year as a band.
I think for me, there definitely is that side of it. I think maybe because we are from Canada and you're used to doing things kind of the hard way.
Right.
That there were several years in between where, figuratively speaking, you're underground. Your head is, you're being kept down just by the circumstances, by the amount of driving that you have to do or whatever it is.
Yeah, of course.
That I was just I was kind of on cloud 9 the whole time. I sort of knew in the back of my mind, people aren't here to see us. Yeah. But I still get to play an arena for 10 minutes.
But you're enjoying the moment, yeah.
Yeah. So there was, and it was like that even when we did kind of the Canadian version of Winter Jam the year before. It's called Maple Noise. It lasted, I think, 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And all we heard, we were basically, I think we were the third act on, and we heard so many other bands just kind of telling us all the things that were not going as well as they thought they should. And I was just I'm having the time of my life, man. We've never done this before. This is
good
awesome.
perspective.
Yeah. And you were wearing super sexy tight white jeans that anyone could see.
Goodness.
Like, from the back of the arena, you were just rocking those tight white jeans, babe. You're killing it.
Don't let a toot slip away in those, man. It could be bad.
We looked at pictures, remember that? Because we'd play the offering song in the middle of the arena, and like you could spot Chris anywhere in those tight white jeans.
I remember it was before we had laundry in our house, so I was doing it at a laundromat.
I remember
and
that.
I pulled those jeans out of the dryer, and a guy next to me was like, "Wait, do you have kids?"
So
dude,
awesome.
those are mine.
Those are mine. Yeah.
Rock and roll, man.
All right, I had her.
Well, I mean, knowing a bit of just your journey, and I'll let you guys speak to it, but there's that Winter Jam moment, and I think you guys did Winter Jam twice, didn't you?
Yeah, we did the full run one time, and then we did just West Coast.
Okay, gotcha.
Once. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's things are progressing and moving, but it feels like there's a lot of like engine revving, Autobahn going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then sometimes it feels like you're not driving the sports car anymore, you're driving a bicycle, and on the same road. So tell me a little bit about what it was like going from debut album to follow-up album to now releasing, you have a new single out, and just sort of that hurry up and wait tension.
I'm terrible at waiting.
Most of us are.
I feel like this year especially, it's been a lot of waiting and a lot of circumstances out of our hands. So I'll just talk to the present moment anyway. And I feel like Holy Spirit really had to reveal to me. I was in a frustrated moment, and I was like, God, you made me this way. Mm-hmm. Like, I like to keep moving. It's your fault. Like, you made me with this kind of a personality and this kind of a drive. Why do I feel so stuck? Like, why am I here? And I literally felt him say, even when you feel stuck, I'm still moving. And this is a season for really understanding and unpacking that together.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you want to live in harvest all the time, don't you? I mean, I do. I want to be constantly like reaping what I've sown, and like even what I didn't sow, and just like in that plentiful season. And that it's like in between like the sowing and the reaping are so many weed pulling steps, and like so much toiling, and I just felt like I was just, I needed new perspective. And I've realized that being stuck is just a mindset, and it's a human mindset, and our circumstances are what we can't control. Someone's coming to join us and say hi for a second.
Who do we got here?
Hey, Milo.
Hey, Milo.
I guess I didn't really tell you that we'd be in here doing a podcast. You want to say hi for a quick
for the listeners who are on listening to this right now, we've got Milo. We got Ziggy now, which are your two kids.
I'll take a quick pic and save it, so when you go with this episode. Oh, here's my phone.
Hey, Milo, what are you eating?
Our kids
podcasting when the kids
Chick-fil-A French fries.
They are brought.
Hi, guys.
They brought the goods. This is a family event right now. I love it.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we're gonna say goodbye to the kids.
On a side note,
it's funny too, and we'll go here now, but it's funny that the kids walk in, and then my wife comes in and kind of like, let mom and dad do their thing now.
Yeah.
That's actually how we really got connected and closer. We toured together, and then I guess your manager's like, do you think your wife would want to come hang out?
Yeah, which is like pretty much only one of 2 tours we've ever had someone join us.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like, it was so great. It was amazing. She was a game changer.
She's a game changer, that's for sure. I mean, our spouses are our rocks, and you talked a little bit about being impatient and sort of wanting to get things moving. Chris, how do you react when, like, are you also impatient, or are you sort of the voice of reason, or do you just bite your tongue and go, I'm gonna stay out of the way of this one?
Well, I mean, I think when you said before that you're competitive, I think we're competitive in completely different ways, which is very nice. I'm not the things that I think drive you insane. I think about, and I'm like, yeah, that probably would drive me insane. But I think we just complement each other really well in that way. That I like process. I like thinking about how to, make things happen more efficiently. And
I mean, we pretty much have 100% different job descriptions within the same job.
Right.
Which is fun. It's a funny thing to talk about. I think a lot of people think, oh, that's so cute. Like, they're just on a constant date. And that's what I thought at first until I realized, oh, Chris does all the driving, all the setup. He does all the tracks and all the video. And I'm with the kids all day. And then we see each other for the first time, sometimes on stage.
It was like a perfect division of labor. We did a short run up in the Northeast a few weeks ago. And we did exactly that. No one came with us. It was just the two of us. And it was great. We had some childcare help at the churches from
while we're on stage,
sound
it's
check until
probably a good plan.
when we're done the show.
Yeah, exactly right.
But then other than that, you get to be mom and
what brings us to life is really different, but aligned. So it works.
Right.
It really is truly a band setup, which I think is funny. Like, we fight the most when we rehearse because we never see things going the same way ever.
Well, then on that, who is most likely to say, because you guys write together in the same room a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I know if my wife says, your vocals don't sound it just, well, fine, whatever. I'm just not going to show you my music anymore. I'm now offended because the person whose opinion matters most to me pointed something out in a non-attacking way, but I take it so seriously, right? So how do you guys, something as deep as songwriting, pouring your heart out?
Right.
The answer is actually a lot simpler than you think.
Really? So tell me. I might need some of the secret
Invite
sauce.
someone else to write with you.
And let them be the bearer of the bad idea.
They don't know that they're there for counseling us through our songwriting, but that is why they're there. No, just kidding.
The only time when, the fists come up is when we rehearse.
It used to be over the gym in our very early married days when you marry someone and you just think you're so in love.
Yeah.
And maybe 60% of the person you're marrying.
Yeah.
That may be high, actually. And you just assume, we're on the same page with everything, right, babe? Mm-hmm. You love working out at 7 a.m. at the gym, right? And he's like, oh my goodness, I do not do that. And there's just
I used to work evening shift and then I would work out when I got home at 1 a.m.
Right.
And it's just
no,
it's a funny
that's not
thing.
gonna fly.
No, of course. It's you learn some things and prep and then you get married and there's things you only learn in real time. And the same with the band. It's we really did need to be married a good 8 years before we joined forces.
Yeah.
Our egos would have been out of control driving the boat. Mine, yours, you've never really ego tripped. I've been very ego driven. So I'm thankful we were in a band immediately.
And you can you use the word ego driven. It's I want to even not clarify. I want to speak to that because I feel like when I look at you, it's no, it's not all about me, but it's all about the fact that I have this burning thing in me that needs to be released.
Sure.
And I need to let it out. It needs to be heard.
Yeah.
And when are the moments, what are the things that cause that drive, that belief?
I
was actually going the opposite way. What are the things that cause that flame needing a bit of fanning?
That's such a big, good question. I think sometimes it's when we work hard but not smart.
Wow, yeah.
And on a really practical, basic level, there's just only so many things that only I can do and only Chris can do. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff we used to do that other people can help us with.
Right.
So I think it's just getting in tune with that on a super basic level, because you're not just kind of spinning your wheels. And then also, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
And it's going to sound funny because you can in the right time. But good timing is God timing. And I've learned that mostly the hard way, because he'll just kind of sweetly bring you back around to that same lesson until it actually becomes a lifestyle. Because we can learn a lesson, but we learn it in our head and our heart in the moment, but it doesn't affect and change. It's
right.
God, I need a breakthrough. Well, that's awesome. You can break through, but then you can repeat all the same things and end up right back where you were, or breakthrough can become a lifestyle. And I think, it's just realizing, okay, God, pausing enough to go, what are you calling me to steward in this season? Because you're right, going back to your earlier question of all the records and all the separate band records leading up to where we are now, it's been a lot of different seasons
Yeah.
and a lot of different things to carry and to plant seeds in different fields. So it's just taking the time to understand, okay, what's God calling us to separately? Because you don't want to lose yourself within your marriage either.
Right.
You don't want to lose your own dreams within your band dream. So it's taking a second individually to keep growing and hanging with the Lord, and then also taking time to steward well what we carry together. So it's just a lot of pausing to listen and trying to make listening a lifestyle, honestly. Because I just feel like before I was a mom, I could rely on, like, how am I going to say this? Habits are great. But again, if a habit is the only way you know how to experience God, what I mean is, like, my hour Bible study in the morning was what I got to do. Such a wonderful thing. And then I became a mom, and it's like, wow, if the only way I hear from God is through that hour in the morning, I'm totally hooped. So that's a long way of just saying, like, just learning how to listen as a lifestyle and learning how to let Holy Spirit be the one that's a step ahead. Like, I love to be a step ahead, and I literally felt Holy Spirit say, you don't need to be. I'm present future.
Yeah.
You're present. You are just called for present. Let me handle future. Like, I am a step ahead. So it's just, being in tune with the season that you're in and what you're stewarding in that season, and making sure that that's what you're working at. Because if money is what's driving the way you're spending your time, not everything worth investing in makes you money.
Totally.
And, like, you could be completely disobedient to what the Lord's asking you to build. And like right now in our life, like even starting our podcast, it's like not like we're living off the podcast. Like,
totally.
Yo, babe, getting rich off this podcast. No, I mean, that wasn't why we started it anyway. But if money is the outcome you're seeking, it's never going to be fulfilling. It's
Maybe
just
love
not.
should be the outcome that we're seeking.
Man,
Do you think of that?
It just came right into place.
my
I've only had
goodness.
another smooth line like that one
I thought you
other
were going
time.
to say when I met my wife for the first time.
No. Well, I mean a podcast where, like, I don't plan these.
Have you had Kyla on the podcast?
No, I don't think I have.
That might be good.
And actually, I haven't had her on because every guest I have is typically a musician or artist.
Sure, that makes sense.
But I also go, like, I think there's a podcast to be had where it's like my wife takes over the hosting duties for me.
Hey, there you go. I mean, she could host.
Maybe it should be the Kyla and Jodi episode.
That'd be fun.
Because
It'd be 2 hours long, but
it would be 2 hours long.
Live from the salon.
yeah, please. Is there budget for that?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, when I think of salon, I go like, oh, what, you're going to like Great Clips to get your hair done? Like, which is probably the most offensive thing I've said to any woman on this listening to this podcast.
Hey, I am cutting my own bangs. I am learning how to cut my own bangs because it goes too fast to go to the salon all the time. Side note, you were asking a serious question.
I don't really know where I was going with it. I mean, we got off track, and it's typical of me to get off track, so I'm not really
it's
surprised
good.
by that.
I loved it. I think your question about just what can lead kind of to burnout is almost what you were sort of asking. And I just feel like anytime I'm not abiding, like if I don't abide, it's going to lead me down a road of burnout. If I'm actually abiding and like the power source is not me.
I posted this on my Instagram the other day, and I don't really know where it came from, but other just like reflection. I said, like, I feel like burnout is when you spend, like, because it's not always money we spend, it's energy, time, resource, or
Output over input.
Yeah, output. When you put output into something that God hasn't graced you to do.
Oh, totally.
It leads to burnout because you're spinning tires on something that he's not.
Man, I think that's great. I agree.
I mean, Chris, you can maybe answer this too, but has there been a time that you go, I was close to burnout because I was focused and wanted God to grace me to do something that he hadn't?
Oh, yeah. Man, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this last week.
Wow,
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it isn't always in such a grand scheme. Maybe it can be daily for sure. You get to the end of the day and you're like, man, I was in the flow with Holy Spirit.
I mean,
or
it's
not.
been, we're kind of just starting kind of a new season music business wise. But I would say a year ago, we were both kind of in a place where we felt like, is this really, is this going to keep going?
Yeah.
Did we fall too far down the hole to, I don't know. I mean,
Did you feel pressure to fix it?
We felt kind of powerless to fix it.
Wow.
If I'm being honest. And I mean, when I said this week, that was kind of a joke, but everyone was a little bit under the weather in our house, and I kind of caught it at the tail end. So this morning, I got myself up, went to men's prayer from our church, and it was really awesome. Just spent the morning doing that. Went and had a coffee by myself. Mm-hmm. My wife was a rock star this morning.
Gotta have that alone time once in a while. It's key.
It's good.
Yeah, for sure.
For you guys, you talked a little bit about your podcast. So tell me about your podcast. Tell me what the heart of it, the vision is. Give me the sales pitch. Tell me why I should tune in to more than just 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh man. Well, we don't really know what we're doing yet. So that's a great pitch.
Me either. So here we go.
I think it kind of started mainly because we'd have conversations with fans in line, and it would be so short. And be like, can we keep talking about that? Like, send me a DM. So that whole let's keep talking just kind of kept coming up. And I think too, just the fact that we're married, and I think that the majority of our ministry is really beyond our music. It's just how we live our life to the full, even when it's really full of challenges. And I think people were just intrigued to know, talk to me about that. Like, you guys seem fulfilled, tired, but fulfilled, happy, married, kids. Like, I really want to, can you like walk me through the DNA of that a little bit? And so, because we are married and we can do a podcast in our PJs at our house, we're like, what's the risk? Like, let's do it. So that's what we do. I think we're still playing with it a bit. It's the long game, and I've been doing a few because my husband is usually right, even when I don't want to believe it. I'd say little nuggets on stage once in a while, and Chris was like, you need to do a podcast on that just by yourself. You need to sit and talk about that. And I was so freaked the first time because he's been sitting by my side for all things for the last 6 years. Right. I was like, I don't know. And it was like a lid came off. I just realized I needed to preach to somebody, to myself, and hopefully maybe at least one other listener. And so I did one a couple weeks ago just because I was dealing with it. And it just said, your dream doesn't have an expiry date. It doesn't. And I just talked about that for like 20 minutes. So long story short, they're all around like the pillars of who we are, like mainly music driven. Right. And talking about family and life on the road, but then also just things that we're personally dealing with and wanting to let other people into. Yeah.
And that's why I started this, because I feel like, and you've done a million of them. Think about you sit down with...
Done 24, technically.
24.
You probably...
As the producer.
Well, I wasn't even referring to podcasts. I was going like, you've probably done a million of those radio interviews where it's a call-in, it's a 5 minutes, a 10 minutes, a flyby, and it's straight to you. So tell me about your new single.
Yeah.
And before you realize it, you don't mean to, but you're on a time constraint.
Yeah.
So you get in this mode of not recycling, but kind of saying the same thing because you know that I can keep it without rambling if I stick to these points.
Totally.
And I go, there's so much more behind a lot of these people that I meet on the road or travel with that I wish people understood who they were when the lights go out. Yeah. When you're sitting on the bus, when you're having a coffee.
Totally.
When you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
I mean, the podcast really was a conscious reaction to that kind of that system where that's what we had been doing for 5 years.
Right.
You're on stage for 10, 15 minutes, and then you're in a radio studio for 10, 15 more minutes, and you do kind of have your script in your head of what you're supposed to say, and every once in a while someone throws a wild card, and you're like, oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And to be fair, you know what? It's not dishonest.
No, I was going to say that.
I didn't mean it like that.
No, I know you don't. I know you don't. I just don't want it to come across that way.
No, I think the better way to say it is that we just realized that we had capacity.
There was more to say.
There was more output capacity. Because, I mean, thinking back, before we had kids, before we moved to Nashville, you used to do 3 set nights at a club and then go and lead worship the next morning. And pour out your heart. And it would be like, and then you were spent.
Right.
And now you're kind of spent because physically on the road is draining. But it's like...
There was more to sing and say.
Yeah, there's more to say.
Totally.
Well, and you look at it, you guys do Winter Jam, and it's, depending on what slot, it's like you have 14 minutes and 24 seconds.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, well, if I'm singing 3 songs or 4, I don't have time to say much. So I better find a way to say the important things in a concise way to honor the tourist time or honor the radio station time.
Yeah.
So that it's not insincere. It's just you've gone through what you're going to say to make sure that you get across something clear.
Yeah.
Or else before you know it, you're out of time and you didn't even get to the point of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is good to learn how to do that because, I mean, you end up in a signing line and trying to send someone off with something meaningful in 20 seconds. And then you realize, like, oh, well, that was good.
No, it's true. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to trust God with your offering and be like, okay, well, you can multiply my 14 minutes and 22 seconds into whatever you need it to be for whoever's listening. But it was tough. It was so tough to go from really coveting space. Like, I don't know if that's a Canadian thing. I don't know what. But we used to lead worship at our church, and we'd have 20 minutes, and we'd only pick 2 songs just to allow there to be Holy Spirit time and ebb and flow. That was the hugest shock, getting on the stage at Winter Jam and going, I don't know if I know how to do this in this much time. Like, I don't even, can God use this? This is crazy. This feels like strictly entertainment. I've lost, I love feeling what I'm putting out. And this was really more selfless. This was like, okay, this is a show that looks like this. We're serving this vision. This is not our stage.
Yeah.
We've just got to do our thing and get off stage. And you're right. I lost the ability to, well, I mean, after that was a straight year because it's such a privilege. If New Song, if you're listening, we love you and we owe you so much.
I saw Rustley at Target the other, or not Rustley. I saw Eddie at Target the other day.
I mean, such good guys. Our first year as a band, we did their fall tour, their Christmas tour, all of Winter Jam. We almost did 200 shows with those guys. Yeah. And
I played a lot of ping pong with Eddie.
Oh my goodness. Like, they're amazing. And it was an education. I didn't even know what Winter Jam was. Right. It was crazy.
Up in Canada, we hadn't heard of it. And I kind of look at it this way that there are, I had this email today. I'm leading worship at this conference in a couple weeks. And they wanted me to do like 15 or 12 or 15 minutes of like songs like before everyone's inside, like to get people in. And I just said, like, I'm a worship leader, not like background music. Like it kind of resonated with that in me. Yeah. And I got my back up and I was kind of like, and I said, so what's your thinking behind it? I said, well, this is what we need. And I go, you know what? Not my comfort zone, not what I'm used to, but if that serves what you're trying to do, sure, I can do that. And I'll do that for you. And I'll choose to do. And I saw this on Winter Jam. You guys were out all the time, out in the lineup in the freezing cold, talking, interacting, having those meaningful conversations. I even see it on your Instagram. If you're not following, it's just at Loving the Outcome, right? Yeah. If you're not following them, make sure you are, because you reply to everybody's comment. Yeah. Even if it's critical. Yeah. You still take the time to engage with everybody. So the 14 minutes is just a snippet of who you guys are.
Yeah, it's man, it's fun and hard to be in a season now, years after the 15-minute slots. Yeah. Where you have a lot of songs that you've never gotten to play or whatever, and none of this is a pity party. It was just time to actually say, okay, what is this season now? And even who are our people? So it's been really fun to go out and find our people and just play smaller shows, but shows where we do get to like spread out a bit. Yeah. And to be, if I'm being really honest with you, I guess there was a few purposes behind the podcast, but to encourage the person listening who feels that God is asking them to step out and just share themselves where they are. Right. But it's scary. That's how it feels with the podcast and with speaking for me. But I felt God saying, this year I want you to develop that skill. I want you to start speaking more. And it terrified me. I was like, God, there's 1 million people with 1 million followers that are known for speaking and writing books. Like, what? I do music.
It's much easier to speak when you know the band's about to kick in any minute now.
Right. That's what I'm used to.
I love that that's the reason that it terrified you. Not that, like, to me, it'd be like, go up and speak. It's like, I have nothing to say.
Right.
That's the problem. You're right. I knew that I had stuff to say, and you'd encouraged me in that. But sometimes we got to just start developing that skill that God's asking us to do in private if we want to do it in public. Yeah. And it can be really easy to skip that step, but we just started doing stuff at home. Chris has a video editing background, and he just started putting the camera up and going, okay, babe, like, just what does it look like to just start talking and getting comfortable and watching it back? So don't be too scared to step out. Don't wait for validation on your dream or your vision from a human.
Yeah.
If it's on your heart to do it, like, it's going to be vulnerable and crazy, but just, step out.
I love it. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to promote a few things that you guys have going on. You have your Instagram, which is at Love and the Outcome, and you have your podcast, which I believe is just called Love and the Outcome Podcast, right?
Yep, that's
so
what
you can
is.
search it. We'll have it in our show notes as well to listen to. But you guys have a song that recently came out, a single called You've Got This, which my daughter has made some dance moves to. And then
So
also
good.
most recently, our good old mutual friend, Dan Bremnes, you guys did a remix with him. So we'll put
Again.
on Up Again. Yeah, that's right. So we'll put that in the show notes as
Cool.
well.
Awesome.
But please, if you're listening to me in this podcast right now, follow their journey, because you will be inspired about how no matter what season is thrown their way, no matter what difficulty is thrown their way, that they keep on doing the thing they're called to do. And I think that is worth hopping on their website and buying a t-shirt or buying an album or buying a ticket and supporting, because we're looking forward to more great music from you guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
I think it's pizza time.
Pizza time.
I think we're gonna have some pizza in.
Love it.
So closing off this podcast, we're gonna listen to their newest single called You Got This.
Count on you. I don't know the way, but you got this. Give me the faith that you got this. Even today, you got this. I know that I know that I know that you got this.
All right, there you have it. There was my conversation with Love and the Outcome. So make sure you go check out their podcast. We'll have a link in the show notes that you can go check out. It'll be right there for you. Click it, check it out, and you will really, really enjoy their podcast. I believe they had just recently had Bob Goff on, which I'm really looking forward to checking out that episode on the plane. Check out their music. Make sure to follow them online. I'll put their Instagram handle in the show notes as well. It's just at Love and the Outcome, I believe. And we are Overflow BTM on Instagram as well. So make sure you give us a follow. My name's Josh McCabe. I'm your host. I will see you guys in just 2 weeks for another episode of Overflow Beyond the Music. Thanks for hanging out.
'Cause you